He's calling on Mike Johnson to do something that the speaker's simply prepared not to do. He issued
determined not to do.
He issued a preemptive rejection. That's such classic Washington speak. Didn't even wait for the bill to pass. So we don't think this is going to the House.
No, it's not. And I'd be interested in seeing the White House's whip count of votes that he is convinced would pass the House. There are a large number, or at least enough Republicans in this narrowly divided House to block that bill. And Speaker Johnson doesn't even have to bring it to the floor. There's some discussion today about this move called a discharge petition, which is very complicated.
You're not buying into it, are you?
Well, I think it would take a lot of work and a lot of support from both sides working together, which is not something we've seen a whole lot of lately. And so it's unlikely to happen. Also, Republicans, even those who might be for the bill, might think twice about going against the speaker. It's just, in old school anyway, it's not done. There are those who might move to get rid of him if this does go to the floor, too.
Well, I would note that Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader in the House, held a news conference just in the last hour saying he thinks there's 300 votes that would vote for this if ultimately they have a chance to. And he said he'd use every legislative tool he can, which would imply a discharge petition potentially, even if it's actually harder to do in practice than theoretically. I think that's what you're getting at.
Yes, exactly. And it sounds, though, that Speaker Johnson is listening, as we call him here, to the audience of one. There is one person who doesn't want this to pass, just like he didn't want the border bill to pass. That's former President Donald Trump, who wants this to be an issue in the campaign and is very much against, I should say, any foreign assistance, especially against Russia.
You've made the point as well, Kailey. It's not just Republicans, but Democrats might have a problem, specifically progressives with the Israel component here.
Exactly.
So we'll see what the matter looks like.
3 votes against it in the Senate last night from Democrats.
That's right.
It's important to keep in mind. To return, though, to your point, Wendy, on the idea of Mike Johnson getting ousted, that's where Democrats, too, could come in, Joe. Could they act to protect him, which they did not do with Speaker McCarthy? But if it were to allow the supplemental aid package to get through, perhaps it's a different calculation this go around.
Yeah, that's a lot of deal making. I don't know, to the extent that we should be reading into what Hakeem Jeffries is saying. Is he prepared to save Mike Johnson? Because in the past, the answer has been no.
In the past, the answer has been no, but there's been more and more talk that this legislation is so important, and the president does want it passed, and Democrats presumably support the president in his re-election year, and would work to keep the speaker in his job only to get the legislation passed. Whether politics, I don't know. It's hard to tell anymore if anybody's going to play by the rule book or not.
Yeah. Well, and on the subject of it being an election year, for that very reason, when voters are getting ready to head to the polls in November, how they think about the economy is also something that the president has to consider. And if you look at the economic data today, Enda, Curran, it's not necessarily a print that the administration would have liked to see. Hotter inflation than expected. How worried should we be that this is the start of a re-acceleration rather than the disinflationary kind of pressures everyone was hoping for?
It wasn't good news today on the inflation front. Headlining core inflation faster than expected. Food prices up. Prices for car insurance up, prices for health care up. These are the staples that everyone pays for every day of the week. So there's an economic story there, and that it goes to the whole what's going to happen interest rates debate. And I thought this story was meant to be all about disinflation. Prices would cool this year, but that's now in question. And of course, there's a political story in terms of how this spills over into people's attitudes when it comes to voting in the election later this year. So not a good inflation reading for either the Fed or White House today.
Is it safe to say, we're going to hear from the White House a little bit later this hour, that the administration is essentially powerless at this point to impact inflation? They've taken a whack at supply chain. There have been some other actions the administration has taken. But are they just watching this with the rest of us now?
Well, look, the case for the defence is there could be some seasonal impacts from January here. It's when contracts get reset, especially like insurance contracts in the health sector, etc. So maybe January was the bad hit, and February and March we get back to this disinflation story. But others will say to you, we're now into this famous last mile being the hardest. There's plenty of nuts in the system in the services side of things, plenty still of pressure on shortages of key services, for example, shortages of labour in some areas. And none of that is going to be fixed in a hurry. It won't be fixed by the Fed. As you say, the government clearly isn't managing to iron out all the nuts in the system. The end result is we have inflation still considerably higher than where the official target wants it to be.